to the County of Ventura. Hopefully this workshop today will answer some questions that you have related to insurance, debris removal, and duplication of benefits. I have with me Kendra Boyer with Disaster Recovery Experts. A lot of you know her. She was in the D-Rock as well as the incident commander for the operations portion. And we were fortunate enough to keep her on this project through this next phase.
Hi, it's good to see several of your familiar faces again, and as Sean said, those of you who I haven't met in person, I probably spoke to you on the telephone, and it's good to meet you in person, and happy to be here to help move through the next phase of the recovery with the insurance collection.
So we'll just first go over a couple housekeeping things. We did have 2 handouts. I did roughly 40 copies of each, so if you're 2 people, please just take one so that everybody else can get a copy. You know, in keeping with just etiquette in a meeting, and also we're recording this for future posting on presentation, posting this presentation on YouTube, so please silence your cell phones. If anybody does need to use the restroom, if you exit these doors and hang a left at the first hallway, the restrooms are down on the left-hand side. And then same thing for emergency exits in case something happens. The stairs are directly adjacent to the restrooms. So out the doors to the left and then to the stairs. And then lastly, questions and answers. This is completely informal. It's formal but informal. So we encourage dialogue during the presentation. If there's specific questions related to your property, we can answer those at the end. But hopefully this will provide a lot of good information as we move forward on the rebuilding. So, Kendra, you want to take this one?
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, course number 3. So the purpose of this workshop is, as in the very beginning, when you all were filling out the documentation, the right of entry form and whatnot, I know there were discussions about this insurance collection portion and duplication of benefits, which we'll talk about later. But we also understand that's been a year ago now, a little over. So we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to re-explain to you what the insurance collection component is, exactly what it is that we are required by the state to be seeking from you if you had anything for debris removal, and then the process of collecting those insurance proceeds. And then also to give you opportunity to ask questions freely in person so that we can hopefully make sure that you understand everything as clearly as we can explain it to you.
So this next slide, for all of us that are in the rebuilding process, on the county's resource management page, we do have a dashboard that's been put up that gives the status of building permits that have been submitted, have been approved, and then ultimately with permits being issued. To date, we have 64 applications that have come in, and we have 31 building permits for reconstruction issued, and another 33 that are in plan check right now. Those are good numbers compared to our previous wildfires, both Thomas and Woolsey. The link to the website is up here if you'd like to take a picture of the slide to obtain the link. And then also I listed the phone number for the rebuild team if you have questions specific to reconstruction of your property.
Sean, can you go back to that?
Sure. Oh, too fast? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And then, is there people signed in? I don't know if they included their email, but if they included their email, will we be able to maybe email this presentation to them, or tell them when the link's available?
Absolutely. So we can email the presentation. We can also make sure that it gets posted on the VC Recover site. Thanks, Rob.
All right, so just a quick overview of the debris removal program. First of all, I do want to say that we were able to clear all of the properties by the end of May last year. So we were really fortunate that we were able to get things things moving along, and even though it wasn't as quickly as some of us may have wanted, I believe it was, well, I know from my past experience that we were able to get things moving much quicker than past projects, so we're fortunate in that the county had really good contractors that could dedicate their time to the county and get things moving. We had 133 properties that participated, and to date, the counties, the way that the program worked is the county had to pay for the cost of all the debris removal up front, and then on the back end, we have to submit reimbursement from Callaway-S for the costs that were incurred by the county. And to date, we've got approximately 19.1 million that the county expended to perform the debris removal, as well as do all of the community efforts, such as the air monitoring and the street sweeping and items like that, in order to make sure that we kept the overall community safe while they were performing the debris removal. And then the duplication of benefits, so that's a really big word that we want to just kind of break it down. Duplication of benefits is essentially if there is one benefit that's provided, such as insurance proceeds to perform a specific duty, if there's another source that's paying for the same item, the county has to eliminate that duplication. So, for example, the county has paid to have the debris removal performed on the properties. But if there was insurance within your policy that was also dedicated to cover that debris removal, the state requires that we do everything in our power to eliminate the duplication. So it's solely duplicating what was intended for debris removal. Okay, so obviously your policies vary from policy to policy, and there's lots of nuances in each policy. But essentially the purpose of this program and the obligation that the county has is solely to eliminate the duplication of the debris removal benefit. And we can absolutely go into more detail of that later in the presentation. And then how this process supports the community and overall recovery. So the average cost per parcel is significant. I believe all of you should have received your parcel completion report to your emails, and you saw a description of the costs that were incurred on your property, and the majority of them were over $100,000. So there's a significant cost to the county or to the community, because obviously we're all taxpayers, and so taxpayer dollars are what are actually paid for the debris removal. And
so it's okay to interrupt, is that right?
Sure.
I didn't get the email.
I didn't
get the email either.
No. Okay. Well, I will make, okay, I'll make sure that we look into that and see I believe the reports went out in October, I believe, so, I'll look into it and see, cause it seems like there was quite a few. Okay. The average cost per parcel is very high, and the average cost or the amount that is dedicated to debris removal varies drastically. It all depends on what you had in your policy, how the policy was written, how your adjuster interprets the benefit. So the county is responsible for meeting the obligation of anything that is left over. So retrieving the insurance proceeds that you were eligible for based on what you had paid for in your policy obviously helps all of us as taxpayers, because it's eliminating what the county is required to pay out.
So in regards to the people that did raise your hand, it was a secure email that was sent out. I would encourage you to look in your spam, but it did require you to authenticate your email because it had your ROE in it, which included driver's licenses and other sensitive information. So for us to be able to email it, it did come as an encrypted file.
Who did it come from?
It would have come from the EHD Mountain Fire at VenturaCounty.gov website.
I'm sorry, begin.
EHD Mountain Fire at VenturaCounty.gov. Yes.
We did get ours, so it probably went to spam for those that didn't get it.
So,
And if you don't have our emails, then what?
we We should have everybody's email. If the email that the PCR was sent to is the same email that we use for this workshop.
I don't quote me on, I think it was around October, but I can confirm.
So if someone had to log in, then would you have the data as to who actually succeeded in logging in to get there?
We can see if it was opened, yeah, on our end, but we can work with you guys. And Jesus, our staff person with environmental health, that did the emailing, we can make sure that that gets fixed for sure. So, yes.
So Kendra, just to be clear and be very simplistic, if the cost was $10 to you, which I know is $100,000, but and our insurance paid $5, are we then in the clear that we give what the insurance company gave us to you?
Yes, except there's the nuances. If there was something else that you had to do as far as debris removal goes that we didn't remove, then you could use that leftover $5 to remove the other items that we didn't remove.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, but I meant the cost to you was $10 and we only got $5, say, in the policy.
Oh, then the remaining 5 is what the county covers.
The county covers. Okay, so
I'm
you're
sorry.
going to be in deficit significantly, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. And where does that money come out of?
So the way that it's structured, it's through the California Disaster Assistance Act. It's administered through Cal OES. And when we request reimbursement, the state basically reimburses us for 75% of the overall cost. So when we decided to have a county-led program, the expectation that the county took on was that 25% of the debris removal activities would be covered by the county.
And does that result in tax hikes, or how do you recover that?
Nope, it came from reserves that the county has. So, all right, moving on. So there's certain things that the folks that submitted the ROE are responsible for, and the different types of policies that that you had with your insurance come in different shapes and sizes. Some policies speak of a percentage of the overall coverage. Some policies will list a lump sum for debris removal, and then other policies might have the debris removal factored into the overall coverage. The expectation, like Kendra said a minute ago, is that the insurance monies that you receive that are earmarked for debris removal, and only the insurance monies, would be the expectation of what you would reimburse the county for. So what does available proceeds mean? We'll go into that in greater detail in later slides. And then the big question that often comes up is, what if I didn't have homeowners insurance? And in the case where those folks and we had 12 properties that participated in our program that did not have insurance, they don't know anything. So the county and the state basically pay for those costs associated with the debris removal. I'll do the Mythbusters.
Sure. So I'm sure that you all have heard lots of stories about what the county will be doing with this insurance recovery process. So we wanted just to make sure we could put you all at ease on some of those myths. One of which is that we're going to charge you for everything, and like what you were just describing, that you would be responsible to pay out of pocket for that additional $5 that you had mentioned. And again, that is not the case. You are only responsible for what you may have received from your insurance provider, nothing out of pocket and nothing more, and even also only up to what we paid to have or what the county paid to have the property cleared. And rebuilding, you do not have to take anything from your rebuild. As Sean had mentioned, there are various types of coverage for debris removal. If your debris removal coverage is a part of your rebuild, your overall lump sum amount that you were insured for, you get to do all of your rebuild before you owe the county anything, to make sure that you are able to build what it is that you need to rebuild. And then after the fact, there's anything remaining, and that's what the county would be seeking.
In certain circumstances, if you basically max out your coverage on your insurance, and it is in the insurance policy the way Kendra just described, then you don't owe the county anything. But on the flip side, if you don't max out your coverage, say for example, you have 1.5 million in structural coverage on your property, and it costs you 1.1 million, and your insurance is the entity that will remit the debris removal to the county.
Okay, question before you go further. You keep saying what they had for debris removal, and in all the town meetings, it was like you guys would only collect 5%.
So most policies speak of debris removal as a 5% of the overall coverage. So that's where that comes from. So, but each policy is a little bit different. I think represented we have State Farm, Farmers, California Fair Plan, Allstate, AAA, Mercury. Yeah, there's quite a few different insurance companies that we're working with right now.
Over 13 different carriers.
So there's nuances to each and every one of the policies. Yes.
Who's gonna review the fact that the rebuild cost is actually more than the insurance policy is?
As far as in regards to debris removal?
No, just, you said if the rebuild cost exceeds the whole, uses the entire policy, there will be no debris removal funds
If
to
your
you guys?
No, if your policy, like we said, there's 3 different types of coverage for debris removal.
Yeah.
One is a percentage of the overall coverage. The other is a lump sum where it's an additional component of your insurance where you're paying for debris removal. And the other is where the debris removal is basically included in your overall coverage of your policy.
Yeah, I misunderstood the way Kendra described it though.
Okay.
You got a situation where I know that my house, because of the seismic codes and all the rest of the upgrades, sprinklers, et cetera, solar, is gonna cost more than what my insurance policy says.
Sure.
Is the debris removal sacrosanct, and then you're just talking about the actual construction cost, excluding the debris removal?
We're saying that one type of policy has the debris removal built into the
Yeah,
overall rebuild
mine's
cost.
5%,
Okay, so then it would be the 5%.
so it's held separate.
It is.
Okay.
It is, yes. Thanks
We
for the
could-
question.
And we can, so I have already reached out to each of your insurance carriers for them to validate what type of coverage you had. That way, when we're speaking with you, we understand what exactly it is that you were covered for. Off the top of my head, Mr. Chase, I don't recall if your carrier has responded. But
Well, I told them not to.
okay.
I told them not to because there is major discrepancies on my site.
Sure. Well, I'd be.
I have $50,000 or more in structural removal. Everybody's familiar with it, that I'm gonna have to pay. And somehow I have to deduct it from the debris removal.
Yeah, and that's part of the latter part of the presentation.
Okay.
So we'll get into that for sure.
And then lastly, if you choose not to rebuild or repurchase, then you also do not owe anything to the county.
That's a myth.
That it's a myth. No, I'm sorry. That is a busted myth, that you do not. The actual answer is you do not have to pay anything to the county if you choose not to rebuild or to repurchase.
Even if they get money from the insurance company for debris removal?
Hold on.
Go ahead.
The myth is that you don't have to, if you decide not to rebuild and sell your property and you have a lump sum from your insurance and there's a line item in there that says debris removal, The common myth is that if you don't rebuild, then you don't owe the county any money. And that is incorrect, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, and that's where, in most circumstances, when properties are being rebuilt, we are coordinating directly with your adjuster, because a lot of times the debris removal is a dynamic number that doesn't get settled until they close out your insurance claim. So, for example, on Thomas Fire, the insurance collection process that the county administered went on for, 5 years. So the expectation here isn't that, it might be for some of you if you've cashed out and decided to, purchase a house elsewhere, you would remit that amount that you've already been paid within 30 days, but we're going to be working with you guys for a long time. And that's kind of why the purpose of this workshop as well is to kind of establish the relationships and kind of try to answer some questions to avoid pitfalls later down the road.
You keep talking about that we've been paid already, but who is gonna pay for the debris removal? Us or the insurance company?
It depends. It depends. If you're rebuilding, I would say 75% of the time, the insurance companies would remit the check directly to the county on the previous 2 fires. So, yes.
I need some clarification. If we are not planning on rebuilding,
Yes.
what is the rules for that if we do not plan to?
So you'll still get the invoice from the county, and in your insurance settlement, there will be a line items that will describe how much you were paid for debris removal. And that line item that's in the insurance settlement is the amount that would be remitted to the county.
Okay. And it will be, depending on what it is, it would either be the insurance company or myself issuing.
Correct. And then we'll get into the next part related to eligible deductions that you can have.
And some of the carriers have indicated that they have not remitted any of the monies to the property owner, and others have said we've paid everything to the property owner. So I want to say it's about 50-50 right now, where they've paid everything to the property owner. In that case, we would be asking you to reimburse the county. But if they haven't, then we would be going directly to the insurance carrier, which is what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to coordinate with them as much as possible so that we're not having to bother you every day asking questions that you're gonna have to ask them anyway because it's so nuanced. So we're doing our best to try to get as much information from them as we can before we have to come to you. Okay. So these are the invoicing process. So these are the notifications that are going to be coming out to you. Our intent is to have them mailed out by the 20th of February. Again, we've already reached out to all of your insurance carriers, and we are waiting on them to contact us back so that we understand what your policy covered before we reach out to you. So some of you may get the letters by the 20th. Some of you it may be a little later if we haven't ironed that out with your insurance carriers just yet. But you'll be receiving something similar to this letter. It lists all the costs that were associated with the debris removal. Again, just a reminder, you'll see this and you might go, this is a huge bill. Just remember, you're not responsible for anything out of pocket that you did not receive from your insurance carrier, okay?
So, and that was one of the handouts that was on the table was the example. And on the 3rd page of the handout is the example of what the invoice will look like. And in this particular case, you can see that, the debris removal cost was $118,000 and change, and the insurance allocation for debris removal was, I don't have my glasses on, I apologize. You guys are all crystal clear, but up close, not so much. Was $45,000, and therefore the amount that is owed is the $45,000. Yes.
This is my very first meeting.
Okay.
Because I was in the hospital at the time all this happened. So, I don't know how you guys would know who my insurance carrier was.
So when the right of entry application was submitted to the county, one of the required items was the insurance information, the policy and the coverage.
Right, that trigger needs to be able to do the delivery.
Correct. Correct.
All right.
Sure. So we've kind of been leading up to this, and hopefully this will answer some more questions for everyone in the room. So there are certain items that are eligible to be deducted from your debris removal portion that's remitted to the county. And just to be perfectly clear, the insurance policies do, on this section, do come in different shapes and sizes, but a lot of the policies will have coverage A for your primary dwelling, coverage B for other structures, and coverage C for personal property. That's the most typical format for the insurance and the debris removal. So you've heard me say before, there's buckets for debris removal in each of those categories. So in order for an item to be eligible to be deducted from the specific category, it needs to be related to that category. So for example, related to coverage A, you would probably be able to deduct retaining walls like you see in the picture, or footings that were left behind because it was on a slope, driveways, walkways, or approaches leading to the property that needed to be removed after the fact, because we did leave driveways everywhere. And but to further expand on that, you would not be able to remove a personal property item, say removal of vinyl garden fencing that we did not take, that might have been somewhere on the property but was damaged or destroyed by the fire. That cost that you incurred for that vinyl fencing would not be eligible to be removed from Section A coverage related to your primary dwelling.
How about the removal of that plastic in that fence that burnt?
If
that you did not remove.
If in the policy and your personal property, it would fall into that category.
That's not debris removal?
It's not.
Structural walls are not debris removal?
So that's, I'm sorry, Mr. Chase. Let's hold the questions till the end so that we can get through all this. I know you have specific questions, but that is an example of the retaining wall that's in the picture. That is a structural element in your coverage A that if that needed to be removed as part of the reconstruction, it is eligible to be deducted from the coverage in category A.
Not category C. The debris removal.
It's under the primary dwelling coverage.
Okay.
So again, it all just depends on how you were covered. The majority of the policies have the three categories: primary dwelling, accessory structures, which are like your sheds, your garden sheds and things like that, and then personal property, which are like the fences and items like that. So if your coverage was 5% of A, B, and C, then you'd have three separate buckets that we'd have to look at to subtract what you were removing from each of those three buckets. That makes sense.
So as far as with the two previous wildfires that is this anybody's house that's rebuilding right now by any chance? This is a perfect example of an eligible deduction on the reconstruction where the elevation of the garage floor is different than the driveway that was left behind. So right now that driveway facilitates construction activities, materials, being able to get closer to and stay dry or stay out of mud on the reconstruction. But at some point that driveway is going to need to be removed and re-poured so that it lines up with the new garage floor. In the same token with front porches, stoops, sidewalks that go up to front porches, patios that are attached to the primary dwelling in the back. If things don't line up and you need to remove them as part of the reconstruction, the cost that you incur to do that demolition work would be deducted from the amount that you owe to the county in that specific category. Yes.
Just for clarification, regardless of what bucket it comes out of, like C, B, or A, it's still deductible if you have additional removal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And very common in this picture, a lot of Camarillo in the areas that were affected by the mountain fire were homes that were constructed on hillsides. The timing and how fast people are rebuilding is completely unknown. So from the debris removal operation, structural components such as grade beams, footings, retaining walls that are associated with that hillside, we left that back so that it wouldn't destabilize the hillside. Because you could be rebuilding in 6 months, you could be rebuilding in 18 months. So with rains and seasonal fluctuations, those elements were left behind to prevent you from incurring additional costs with stabilizing a hillside.
So, on to the documentation that the county can accept for those deductions. So, got an example here. I don't know if you can all see it very well, but it needs to be itemized. It needs to be, the cost needs to be very clearly identified, and it has to be a paid item. So we have to show proof that the item was actually paid and not just an estimate for the cost of work. And it's fine for you to have multiple items, because most likely you will have, if you have one contractor doing a myriad of things, you may have things that are related to removal and other items that are related to replacement. But it's very important that it's delineated. What is the removal and what is the replacement? So this one right here is a good example where it has the pit. I can't even see that myself. So it's 200 square feet of pavers were removed, $500. Then it has 250 feet of drip irrigation lines replaced, $500. So you see that you don't have all the items are not just one lump sum for a list of work that was performed. It has to be separated out by the amount, especially if they're doing any rebuild work at the same time that they're doing the demolition.
And quite common, if you are working directly with a general contractor, there will be line items of work that's being performed. So just make sure that he provides that level, or she provides that level of detail in your contract, because that can be used as well to demonstrate or provide the supporting documentation.
We want to make sure, even if it's a small amount, every little bit counts, as I'm sure you are well aware with the rebuild process. So we want to make sure that you are able to deduct as much as you possibly can from what you remit to the county. So even if it's $200 or $25, ask the contractor, I need you to reprint this because I need it to list everything out so that we can make sure we can let you deduct as much as you possibly can.
Yes.
How do we find out whether or not, say, a retaining wall was left behind for structural, land purposes, or if the county just deemed, oh no, that doesn't need to be removed?
It would be the same. So if it was left behind and it was, say, a common one on larger houses are really deep footings, where we usually dig down to 4 feet, and if it keeps going, then it was left behind. So that would be a perfect example. Caissons, another example where the reconstruction, the caissons are in a totally different spot on the reconstruction, and you had to hire a contractor to come and break them off 4 feet down. That portion would be eligible for deduction.
Okay, so a wall holding up a hillside, I think, was left because they didn't want the hillside to come down, but how do I know for sure that I can deduct that wall?
So it just really depends where the wall was. So if it was part of the house under the coverage A or section A, then it would go from A. But if it was not close to,
Who figures that out?
it's basically, we have all of the site photos. We'll work with you. We'll work with the
Okay.
insurance and kind of evaluate it. But you know, if it was a retaining wall, you know, and then 3 feet away was the house and that retaining wall needed to be removed, I would,
So they left it there on purpose.
correct,
Yeah. Okay.
correct.
But we would work with you guys to figure that out. If
Yep.
it can be deducted or not.
Yeah, Kendra will be our point of contact for working with you through the process. So, and again, the level of what we're trying to demonstrate, what we're required to demonstrate that the costs that you incurred were reasonable.
Sean?
Yes.
And this might not be applicable at all, but we had this massive grade beam with 8 30-foot caissons below it. In the debris removal, the grade beam was destroyed because of all the heavy equipment on top of it. That doesn't come into this category at all, or does it?
It would, if they had to break it off and remove it,
Yes.
then absolutely it would be eligible.
Okay.
Yep. So here's an example. Sure, absolutely.
How and where to submit the documentation? The first, last,
The last slide?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
how and where to submit documentation, the last.
Oh, well, we'll have that on the next slide, but essentially you can email all of the documentation to the,
Attention to you?
to the, EHD Mountain Fire at VenturaCounty.gov.
Yes.
In reference to this lady's grade beam illustration, her grade beam was removed, but what if the grade beam was replaced with, let's say, a caisson? In other words, does it have to be like for like?
Mm-mm. No,
So
but
it's just the removal portion?
correct, correct. It's the demolition portion. And that's where it's important to make sure that those are separated out and kind of moving to the next slide, where you have a detailed description on an invoice that is all inclusive of the demolition and the reconstruction. That's where we'll work with you to make sure that there is a separate line item for just the demolition portion. So in this example, it was, removal of wall as shown in detail C and redo as shown on plans with stairway. That doesn't, and this is actually a contractor invoice from, I believe, Thomas Fire. And that's where it's all bundled in. So we don't know how much of it was reconstruction versus how much of it was the actual debris removal portion. So, and then very common, just speaking from, it's actually the next slide, so I'll hold that thought for a second. So a very common question that we received on the previous fires was, we've received an estimate for the work, but the work has not been performed. Can we give you the estimate and deduct it from the debris removal portion? And the answer to that is no, unfortunately. So, because things change as far as reconstruction goes, so the actual costs need to be incurred to be able to deduct it. Yes?
But if we have a fixed price line item contract and it states what the removal or replacement is,
Yep.
is that acceptable?
It is, and typically on those where it's bundled in, there'll be progress payments, and on the progress payment that you'll pay to the contractor, you'll get an invoice that says paid, and it'll be detailed on the progress payment. So this one is an item that's very frustrating to previous fire survivors in regards to stuff that wasn't taken. We tried to be very, very, very clear from the beginning when we did our workshops that trees that were destroyed in the fire, shrubs, bushes, vegetation that are on the parcels that you guys were responsible for removing It just wasn't part of, because the hazards associated with, you know, the trees that were destroyed, the environmental hazards or the public health hazards just don't exist. It's related to the structural fire debris. So a lot of times we'll receive receipts from homeowners for removing, you know, 7 burnt dead trees on the property. And unfortunately, that is not eligible under your Section A because it's not related to the primary dwelling. And also, I highlighted several policies have the description in the policy where there's a separate line item for covering the costs associated with vegetation removal. So, and we typically don't deal with that. Yes?
So if I've got a line item for vegetation removal, I can't submit the cost of the removal, but you're not going to ask for the insurance money that's set aside specifically for the shrub.
Correct. Correct. And there is one caveat to that. If the tree was, you know, destroyed and it was directly adjacent to the house, and it had to come down as part of the reconstruction for safety reasons and other reasons, but we have our site photos, and so we can work with you one-on-one for some of those unique instances. So, yes?
I specifically have tree removal in A and B.
Okay.
You're saying the B, I can use to do tree removal and the county won't ask for that at all?
It depends. If you have, so if
I had nothing but the main structure that you removed.
Yeah.
But I have been removing trees and fencing and stuff like that, which is under B in the insurance policy.
Right. That's correct.
So you're good with that.
If there are no other structures, yeah. And a lot of times other structures might be a detached garage, a pool house, a cabana, a pergola or patio cover that's not connected to the primary dwelling. Those items, but yeah, if it was just the primary dwelling that we conducted the debris removal on, that's just the Section A. Yep. So any other questions in regards to eligible items for deduction? Yes.
Can we get a copy of this slide deck?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
How do we do that?
We could, Mosiman, can we?
Yeah, so we're gonna post it online with the video, and then we'll also email it to all of you as well.
Yeah, we'll convert it to a PDF and we'll do the slide presentation view and email it to everybody who's here. We'll email it to everybody on our list. So.
Next quick question. Did everybody receive the email about today's meeting? Yes. Okay.
The love project.
Oh, the love project. Okay. Okay.
We didn't get another notice.
Okay. Okay. So maybe some are still going to spam. Sounds like maybe we should work with the love project.
Yeah, we'll share it with Matt Merrick from the love project.
Okay.
We have the Ventura project every group in the doc as well, so everyone's gonna get it, so you can share it out.
Okay. Great. We'll make sure that you get it in one way, form, or fashion. Yes, sir?
Question, we have to remove a septic tank, either would that be tree removal or food removal?
Was it damaged in the fire or in the?
Still longer legal, I think. Because the footfield was underneath the driveway.
Okay.
So you have to rebuild.
I think that would be. I guess I'd put on your policy.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We would have to look at your policy specific to see where
Where
and that's, Kendra will be working directly with the adjusters and trying to answer those questions. And but it has come up before, so I can circle back with you specifically on it. And that's I know pretty much everybody in Camarillo Heights was on septic, so that's a big issue for you guys, I understand. So moving on, next steps. So Kendra and I are going to be, primarily Kendra will be the point of contact on the insurance collection and working with your adjusters and working with you guys. Kendra's email and we have set up as the EHD Mountain Fire, so she's monitoring the mailbox as well as the county is monitoring it. And then the same phone number that we had for the DROC is the number that we're using for working with homeowners on the insurance portion. So like we said in an earlier slide, the expectation is for those policies where we have that defined amount for debris removal and have that all figured out, we'll be emailing or mailing the letter and the invoice. The expectation would be that the third page is sent in with the check. And there will be a P.O. box that we have set up that we've used for the previous wildfires that it'll be sent in. If you want to come in and hand deliver it, it will go to the environmental health counter. And we actually have our staff that would receive it in the back of the room. So they know what's going on, but it's your choice. So we have, gosh, in the past, it kind of comes in waves, but you know, working with the insurance companies, yeah, this is not going to be a mailing on February 20th and we're done on March 20th for sure. And we totally recognize that, especially learning our lessons from the previous two wildfires.
Yeah, and again, with the depending on your policy, and we will send the letter, and I will periodically follow up with you if we haven't heard anything. But it's not a follow up because you owe us money. It's we need to keep track of where the properties are in the process, so that when we have to report back to Cal OES what our progress is and what the stat, which we have to do that monthly, we have to report back to them where we're at in retrieval of the insurance proceeds, that we have, you know, information that says, well, we have 90% or so rebuilding and they're using, you know, whatever the process is or whatever the reasoning is. So you'll be hearing from me quite frequently, but hopefully it's okay. Yes, I think I'm right here first. Right?
I was just wondering, when you say communicating, are there going to be actual phone calls?
I'll be either calling or emailing. So whichever, if you have a preference, just be sure to let me know before we leave, and I'll make sure to make a note in your file that you prefer text message or however you prefer to be communicated with.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Given your experience with Thomas and Woolsey, what's your expectation for actual rebuilds? I mean, I know it's a guesstimate for the mountain fire.
Like length of time?
Percentage of, not length, but percentage that are actually rebuilt.
Oh.
Rob, do you remember there were statistics on, was for the Ventura County side for Woolsey, the numbers I want to say were in the 40 to 50% is what I recall.
I think there's a chance it'll be higher for this. I mean, I understand that it's frustrating often to deal with insurance companies, but what I've heard is in general they seem more responsive this time around, so hopefully that'll help with inducing people to rebuild and not leave the property.
Yes, sir.
I have two insurance policies, one for the home and one for a fifth wheel trailer. They both have debris removal. I submitted both of the insurance companies on the right of entry. You'll be getting in touch with both of those, and
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes, sir. And I have to double check with the fifth wheel trailer. We might have a nuance with that, so
Okay.
I can look after this if you'd like, and I can let you know if I've communicated with both of them or just the primary one.
Okay.
So, and just some of the things, I know there's a lot, and you guys are great. I know there's a lot of communication with neighbors and, you know, just working groups that everybody, you know, kind of is sharing information. The amount of debris removal it varies greatly depending on how big the property was and what we did. You know, some properties may have been charged for asbestos abatement where others were not. Some may have been charged for removing vehicles on a property. If you didn't have any that we didn't remove, then you weren't charged for it. What are some of the other? So did anybody in the room have a property that was greater than 7,000 square feet? 7,000? No? Okay. So that was a nuance in the debris removal, so we don't have to talk about that. So, but yeah, so there are slight differences on the costs associated with debris removal. Yes? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
My question is not so much the cost, but more of a timeline. So understand that depending on how your insurance, there may be some money that's owed back to the county. What is the timeline? Like when can we expect that you're going to pay back that insurance money? Is it like after you finish rebuilding, in the middle of rebuilding? Is there a general timeline?
There's not. And like I said, on the previous, on Thomas Fire, we were able, that was a FEMA project, so we were able to secure federal money to do the insurance collection, so it went on for 5 years. And then on this one, since it's a county-led, we, as the county, have to make a diligent, reasonable attempt to collect the insurance. And, we're hiring disaster recovery experts to facilitate that for us. And at some point, we're going to reach a point of diminishing returns where there might be a handful of properties outstanding, where we're going to be working closely with Cal OES, and at some point they might say, okay, you're done with insurance collection. So it's really hard to say.
And it also depends on how your policy read. So if you had a specific amount for debris removal that isn't going to be affected by anything you do with your rebuild or repurchase, then we would ask that be remitted as quickly as possible. That way it's able to go back into the general fund to cover what we've already paid, the $19.1 million that's already been spent to perform the debris removal. But again, if you had, it was a part of a lump sum policy where it's a part of your rebuild, then it will take as long as it takes you to rebuild.
This invoice says payment due in 30 days. Rebuild, we just ignore it?
Yes. Yep. And we'll know, working with the insurance, which ones haven't been settled. But for those of you that decided not to rebuild, that decided to close the chapter and purchase elsewhere or live elsewhere, those would be the policies where the debris removal's already been remitted. Any other questions? Happy to answer. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I think it's important to just remind folks that came in late, please sign in. Make sure that we have your information. And I'm just curious, among the group here, how many folks are planning on rebuilding? So the vast majority of the group. So that's great. And whatever we can do at the county level, if you run into snags, if you run into frustration, please let me know. Let Sean Tender know. We will do our best to facilitate things. That was my commitment to the community, to the board of supervisors when this disaster hit, and it remains our commitment. I hope those of you that have been in the process so far, that it's been going reasonably well. We're really, really trying very, very hard to make it as easy as possible and prioritize the folks that were victims of mountain fire. So please let us know if you're having questions, if you're having any issues, any problems. We want to hear about that. We want to be able to resolve that. And that's great news to see so many people are interested in rebuilding. I know it's emotionally gut-wrenching what you've gone through, and it's going to be a process until you get that certificate of occupancy and you can move in. But thank you for your perseverance and your patience.
Yes.
I have a question. Maybe it's relative to everybody else. If not, I can take it offline. But you talked about driveways and removing driveways. We're leaving our driveway for now because we don't want to trigger new fire codes, right? But eventually, we do want to replace it. So when it comes to debris removal, we're not doing it initially, but later, how does that play into, I guess, reimbursement or?
Yeah, whether it's eligible. So the question is, you remit payment to the county for the debris removal, and then at sometime in the near future or a year, you realize that you needed to remove the driveway and have it replaced
Yeah.
because it was damaged.
Tractors and all that kind of stuff?
So the way we do on rare occasions, we have the ability to refund portions of the debris removal that was remitted to the county. That's provided that the project is still open. Once we close the project with Cal OES and submit all the final paperwork, then there's no, we can't really make any changes to it.
So when do you make that determination that it's closed?
Kendra's done how many of these have you done? 19?
Yeah, a lot of, we'll do our you will be notified. So we will do our very best to try to make contact with each and every one of you to ensure that we have collected what it is that we can, or what's available from you before we do. In addition, in order to close this particular project out with Cal OES, there's still some other aspects of the debris removal that still have to be sorted out that have nothing to do with the insurance collection. So there are many aspects of the overall project that have to be completed before we submit the documentation to Cal OES. So it could be, I mean, again, depending, because even if we have 5 property owners who are still in the process 2 years from now, Cal OES may say, we still want you to seek those insurance proceeds. So it could be 2 years before we submit everything to them for closeout.
Where we left our driveway and we're going through the rebuilding project, again, we're gonna have heavy equipment and going up and down. So I was just wondering, like, at what point, I mean, if we submit as we're going along, does that kind of trigger the fact that you're not gonna close out our project, our remittance schedule, or how much we owe, or what can be additionally deducted from what might have already been paid? Or is it once the insurance company pays you, that's it, and you close it?
For the policies, the lump sum policies are very easy because typically the amount is not going to change. But for the policies where it's 5% of the overall coverage, your overall coverage is very dynamic, and when your adjuster should be able to answer that question better because he'll know maybe you've hit the limits on your policy and there's no additional, which I know a lot of you that I've talked to, that's the case. So in that case, the insurance might, reimburse you or reimburse us for the debris removal because they know the amount's not going to change. So
I have that in handful that have told me that already.
Yeah. So I know it's hard to say, but we're here to work with you guys through the process, and it's not. And a myth buster too that we didn't put up there is that if we don't, collect the money from you within a certain time frame, we're going to send you to collections. That's no. That's definitely not in our itinerary of things to do. So, yes.
With respect to the ROE, you requested us to list items that wanted to remain or be saved on the site, and your debris removal contractor has destroyed them. What do we do about that, and how is it that we claim it?
So we can talk offline, Mr. Jakes, specific to your.
I've been calling the county, I bet you 15 different calls, none of which anybody is willing to take the ball and do anything about it. And Ron, you're one of them, but whatever, it's getting exasperating. I mean, no more exasperating than the structural wall that didn't come down because the dirt behind it might fall down. But it's still debris. I had to remove it. I think that's a debris removal cost. You have described it earlier to me that it's a cost of rebuilding my house. I'm sorry, but we disagree. just like they broke irrigation pipes, and there's water rolling down the side of it, spraying down the side of the hill. You looked at it from afar and said, well, it's not broken. Well, it's not broken because we already fixed it. But I need to put a place to put that cost. How does that happen for me?
Yeah, and I'll be happy to, we can, if after the meeting today, if you want to talk, I'll be happy to sit down with you and talk
Well, I
about
want
this.
everybody else to hear it too.
Does anybody have similar concerns related to what was just described?
Yeah.
So something was supposed to stay, but then got damaged during debris removal.
Absolutely. When they use it to destroy a chain link dog run, and they're using it on the claw to push debris around the site.
Yeah.
I wasn't a happy camper. And Mr. Devley says he has photographs that show the dog run being injured or better. I have photographs that are just the opposite of it. That's why Devley doesn't want to talk about it here.
I don't have that situation.
No, I know you don't, but it's just one of those things that, yeah, push it to the side. I had to have Devley screw in the second time to take the footings out of the ground. All they did is chip the tops of the footings off and then push dirt on top of it. So they came back out and spent another week and a half out there. This is the story of my life there. I wasn't a happy camper to get burned down, but the bottom line is I had to administrate all of it. I had to argue with both of these people to get them to haul a car off my lot that was burnt. Why? I don't know. It wasn't burnt enough, maybe. But that's the kind of stuff that I had to put up with the debris removal group.
So if during the construction process, my architect just told me that they're gonna have to dig down another 4 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the piping and plumbing, and so all that has to be hauled off. Is that considered part of the debris removal?
It is, and if it's line item, just make sure it's line item specific to that. So if there's a deep footing or plumbing, the sewer line, conduits, that kind of stuff that has to be sorted out of the over excavation and recompaction. If it's detailed, then absolutely, absolutely.
Does that go for pool too?
Pools are in the other structures category.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to them soon.
So that's
Yeah, because right now we've been told not to do anything with it.
yeah.
For me, it's like a liability because anybody can access the lot and there's still water in there.
Right.
So, we want to get that taken care of as soon as possible.
Yeah. So the question was specific to swimming pools and just basically that they're just an open vessel right now holding water. The county is treating the water for mosquitoes, so we don't have to worry about the mosquitoes. But on a case by case, depending on access, if it is open and has water in it, the expectation from the county is that you're keeping water out of it. But if there is water in it, then I would encourage you to talk with your insurance about providing temporary fencing around the pool. And then in common circumstances, folks decide I never use the swimming pool, so I'm going to demo the pool and put it in a new backyard. I would encourage you to talk to your adjusters which category pools are. My understanding from previous fires is that it's the other structures. So. Yes.
I'm sure everyone's experience is different, but Joey and I want to commend you both for being warm and approachable and knowledgeable at a time when we're all feeling fragile, especially right after the fire, where we don't know anything and we've never been this way before. But I just want to commend and applaud you for your warmth and approachability.
Thank you. So with that, I really appreciate and thank all of you for coming today. We'll be working together for the near future. So On your way out, I'm sure you guys are going to talk with each other about how things are going, so that's great. Grab a water, grab a snack, and yeah, like I said, reach out if you have questions, and we'll work with you guys on a one-on-one.